Most people think breaking a bad habit is all about having more willpower. They tell themselves, this is the last time. They stay motivated for a few days, maybe even a week. Then one bad day arrives, they slip, and suddenly they're back where they started. It happens so often that many people begin to believe they're simply not disciplined enough. But the truth is different. The problem isn't you, the problem is the approach. For decades, researchers have found that willpower alone isn't enough to create lasting change. Motivation comes and goes. Some mornings you wake up feeling unstoppable. Other days, even the smallest task feels impossible. If your success depends on how motivated you feel, you'll always be fighting an uphill battle. The Japanese have a different philosophy. Instead of relying on motivation, they build systems. Instead of chasing perfection, they focus on steady improvement. They understand that lasting change isn't created by one big decision. It's created by hundreds of small decisions repeated every day. This way of thinking has helped people master crafts, build successful businesses, and develop incredible discipline. More importantly, it can help you break almost any bad habit. The first principle is called Kaizen. Kaizen simply means continuous improvement. It teaches that you don't have to change your entire life today. You only need to become slightly better than you were yesterday. That sounds simple, but that's exactly why it works. Most people fail because they try to change everything at once. They decide they'll quit junk food forever, wake up at 5 in the morning, exercise every day, read a book every night, and never procrastinate again. For a few days, they're excited. Then reality catches up, the pressure becomes overwhelming, and they quit everything. Kaizen says to do the opposite. If you spend 4 hours on social media every day, don't try to cut it to 0 overnight. Reduce it by 15 minutes. If you never exercise, don't force yourself to run 10 miles. Start with a 5-minute walk. If reading feels difficult, read just 1 page. These small actions may not look impressive, but they have something powerful that big changes often don't. They're sustainable. Every time you complete a small promise to yourself, you strengthen your confidence. You begin to trust yourself again. And when you trust yourself, consistency becomes much easier. Small improvements repeated every day eventually create extraordinary results. That's the real secret behind lasting change. The second principle is called Hansei, and it may be the reason so many people never escape their bad habits. Hansei means honest self-reflection. It doesn't mean blaming yourself or feeling guilty. It means having the courage to look at your actions and ask, what can I learn from this? Most people react to failure in one of two ways. They either ignore it completely, pretending nothing happened, or they become so harsh on themselves that they lose all confidence. Neither approach leads to change. Imagine you're trying to stop eating unhealthy food. One evening you give in and order fast food. Many people would think, I've ruined everything, and continue eating poorly for the rest of the week. But Hansei teaches something different. Instead of saying, I'm a failure, ask yourself, why did this happen? Were you stressed? Were you tired? Did you skip a meal earlier in the day? Did you keep unhealthy food within easy reach? The answers matter because every bad habit has a trigger. If you never identify the trigger, you'll keep repeating the same mistake. Think of your habit like a chain. Every link represents a decision. The moment you discover which link is weakest, you know exactly where to make a change. Maybe your habit starts when you're bored. Maybe it begins after an argument. Maybe it happens every night because your phone is sitting beside your bed. Once you notice the pattern, you're no longer fighting blindly. You're solving the real problem. This is why successful people reflect regularly. They don't expect perfection. They expect progress. Every mistake becomes information instead of proof that they can't change. At the end of each day, ask yourself 3 simple questions. What went well today? What mistake did I make? What will I do differently tomorrow? Don't spend hours thinking about it. Just a few honest minutes can completely change the way you approach your habits. Remember, you cannot improve what you refuse to examine. Reflection turns failure into a lesson, and lessons become the foundation of lasting success. Breaking a bad habit isn't about never making mistakes. It's about making fewer mistakes because you learn something every time you fall. That's the power of Hansei. Instead of carrying the weight of yesterday's failures, you use them as stepping stones toward a better tomorrow. The third principle is called Shoshin, which means beginner's mind. At first, it may not seem like this has anything to do with breaking bad habits, but it has everything to do with it. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is because they believe their past defines their future. They say things like, "I've tried quitting before. I always fail. This is just who I am." Those thoughts become invisible chains. The moment you believe you can't change, your brain stops looking for solutions. It starts looking for proof that you're right. Shoshin teaches the exact opposite. It asks you to approach every day with the mind of a beginner. A beginner doesn't assume they know everything. A beginner isn't embarrassed to make mistakes. A beginner expects to learn. Think about how children learn to walk. They fall hundreds of times, yet they never stop because they don't see falling as failure. They see it as part of learning. Somewhere along the way, adults forget this lesson. One mistake becomes a reason to quit. One bad day becomes an excuse to give up. One failure becomes an identity. But every master was once a beginner. Every successful athlete, entrepreneur, artist, and musician started without experience. They improved because they kept showing up, even when they weren't good. Breaking a bad habit works the same way. If you relapse once, don't tell yourself you've failed. Tell yourself you've learned something. Ask, what can I do differently next time? That simple question shifts your focus from regret to growth. The goal isn't to have a perfect streak. The goal is to become a better version of yourself through repetition. Imagine learning to play the piano. Would you expect to perform a beautiful song after one lesson? Of course not. You would expect to practice, make mistakes, correct them, and slowly improve. Yet when it comes to changing our lives, we expect perfection almost immediately. That's unrealistic. Real growth is messy. Some days you'll move forward. Some days you'll slip backward. What matters is that you keep moving. Shoshin reminds us that every new day is another opportunity to begin again. Yesterday's mistakes don't have to control today's decisions. Your future isn't determined by how many times you've failed. It's determined by whether you're willing to keep learning. The people who finally break their bad habits aren't always the smartest or the strongest. They're the ones who refuse to stop being students. As long as you're willing to learn, you're still making progress. And as long as you're making progress, change is only a matter of time. The fourth principle is called Ikigai, one of the most famous ideas to come from Japan. There is no perfect English translation for Ikigai, but it is often described as asterisk, a reason for waking up in the morning. It is your purpose, the reason your life has meaning beyond temporary pleasure. This matters because every bad habit is trying to satisfy a need. Some people overeat because they're stressed. Some scroll endlessly because they're bored. Some gamble because they're chasing excitement. Some procrastinate because they're afraid of failure. The habit isn't always the real problem. It's often a symptom of something deeper. If you only remove the habit without replacing what it was giving you, another bad habit will eventually take its place. That's why Ikigai is so powerful. It asks you a simple question. What kind of life are you trying to build? When you have no clear purpose, it's easy to waste hours doing things that don't matter. But when you know what you're working toward, every decision changes. Imagine two people trying to quit late-night gaming. The first person says, "I'm quitting because I probably should." The second person says, "I'm quitting because I want to build my business, improve my health, and become someone my family can depend on." Who do you think is more likely to succeed? The second person. Not because they have more discipline, but because they have a stronger reason. Purpose gives discipline direction. Without purpose, discipline feels like punishment. With purpose, discipline becomes freedom. The Japanese understand that small daily actions should always connect to a bigger picture. Every time you're tempted to return to a bad habit, stop for a moment and ask yourself, does this action move me closer to the life I want, or further away from it? That single question can change your decisions in seconds. Your purpose doesn't have to be something extraordinary. Maybe you want to become healthier. Maybe you want financial freedom. Maybe you want to be a better parent, partner, or friend. Whatever your reason is, remind yourself of it every single day. Write it down. Read it every morning. Keep it where you can see it. Because when temptation appears, motivation often disappears. But purpose remains. The people who successfully break bad habits aren't the people with the strongest willpower. They're the people with the strongest reason to keep going. Find your reason, protect it, and let it become stronger than the habit you're trying to leave behind. The fifth principle is called Ma, a Japanese concept that means creating space. At first, that may sound too simple to change your life, but think about how most bad habits happen. Someone says something that upsets you, and within seconds you react with anger. Your phone vibrates, and before you even think about it, you're already scrolling. You walk past the kitchen, see a bag of chips, and your hand reaches for it automatically. These actions happen so quickly that they almost feel out of your control. But here's the truth. Between every trigger and every action, there is a small space. Most people never notice it. The Japanese believe that learning to use this space is one of the greatest forms of self-control. Instead of reacting immediately, pause. Take one deep breath. Count to 5. Ask yourself one simple question. Will I be proud of this decision an hour from now? That tiny pause interrupts the automatic pattern your brain has repeated hundreds of times. The more often you create that pause, the weaker the habit becomes. Imagine you're trying to stop checking your phone every few minutes. The moment you feel the urge, don't grab it immediately. Wait for 30 seconds. You may be surprised to discover that the urge begins to fade. That's because cravings are like waves. They rise, reach a peak, and eventually fall. Most people act while the wave is rising. Disciplined people wait for it to pass. The same is true for anger. When someone insults you, your first reaction is usually emotional. If you answer immediately, you'll often regret your words later. But if you pause, breathe, and think before speaking, your response becomes calmer and wiser. This simple habit can improve not only your self-control, but also your relationships. Creating space gives your mind time to choose instead of react. And that is where real freedom begins. A bad habit controls you when every trigger produces the same response. But the moment you create even a few seconds of space, you take back control. You remind yourself that you are not your impulses. You are the person who decides whether to follow them. The next time temptation appears, don't fight it immediately. Pause, breathe, think, then choose. Sometimes, 5 seconds of awareness are enough to save you from hours of regret. The strongest people aren't the ones who never feel temptation. They're the ones who create enough space to make the right decision before temptation takes over. The sixth principle is called Kanso, which means simplicity. Look around your room for a moment. What do you see? A phone within reach. A television waiting to be turned on. Snacks sitting on the table. Notifications flashing across your screen. Most people believe bad habits come from a lack of self-control, but often they come from an environment that constantly invites distraction. The Japanese philosophy of Kanso teaches that a simple environment leads to a clear mind. Instead of relying on endless discipline, remove the things that make bad habits easy. If you're trying to stop eating junk food, don't keep it in your house. If you're trying to spend less time on social media, move the apps off your home screen or delete them completely. If you're trying to read more, leave a book on your desk instead of your phone. These changes may seem small, but they change your daily decisions. Think about it. If cookies are sitting on your kitchen counter, you'll think about them every time you walk past. But if they aren't there, you won't have to fight the temptation over and over again. You're making the good choice easier and the bad choice harder. Successful people understand that discipline isn't just about saying no. It's about designing a life where saying yes to the right things becomes natural. Imagine walking into 2 different rooms. The first room is messy. The television is on. Your phone keeps buzzing. There are video games, snacks, and distractions everywhere. Now imagine the second room. A clean desk, a notebook, a bottle of water, a book waiting to be opened. Which room makes it easier to focus? The answer is obvious. Your environment quietly shapes your behavior every single day. That's why changing your surroundings is often more powerful than trying to change your mindset alone. Don't make success depend on willpower. Make it depend on your environment. Ask yourself, what in my surroundings is encouraging my bad habits? Then remove it. Every distraction you eliminate is one less battle you have to fight. Every good habit you make easier is one more step toward the person you want to become. A simple environment creates a simple mind. And a simple mind makes better decisions. Sometimes the fastest way to change your life isn't by changing yourself. It's by changing what's around you. The seventh principle is called Gaman, a Japanese word that means enduring the difficult with patience and dignity. In today's world, people are taught to avoid discomfort at all costs. The moment something feels hard, they quit. The moment they're bored, they reach for their phone. The moment they're stressed, they look for comfort. But every bad habit survives because it offers immediate relief. The problem is that immediate relief often creates long-term pain. Think about it. Eating unhealthy food feels good for a few minutes, but it can damage your health for years. Scrolling through social media gives you instant entertainment, but it steals hours you can never get back. Procrastinating feels comfortable today, but tomorrow the work is still waiting for you. Gaman teaches a different way to respond. Instead of escaping discomfort, learn to sit with it. When you feel the urge to give in, remind yourself that discomfort is temporary. It will pass. Just like a storm eventually clears, every craving fades if you don't feed it. The strongest people aren't those who never feel tempted. They're the ones who understand that temptation doesn't last forever. Imagine you're trying to quit smoking. An urge appears. Your mind tells you that one cigarette won't matter. Instead of reacting immediately, you simply wait. You breathe deeply. You remind yourself that the craving is only temporary. 10 minutes later, the feeling is weaker than it was before. You didn't defeat the craving with force. You defeated it with patience. The same is true for almost every bad habit. The desire always feels strongest in the beginning. If you can survive those first few minutes, you've already won half the battle. Gaman also teaches resilience. There will be days when change feels impossible. Days when you're tired. Days when nothing seems to go your way. Those are the moments that define your future. Anyone can stay disciplined when life is easy. Real character is built when life becomes difficult. Instead of asking, how do I avoid discomfort? Ask yourself, what is this discomfort teaching me? Every challenge makes you stronger if you refuse to run away from it. Every craving you resist strengthens your self-control. Every difficult moment you endure builds the person you are becoming. Remember this. Comfort builds weak habits. Discomfort builds strong character. The next time life becomes difficult, don't see it as a sign to quit. See it as an opportunity to grow. Because every moment you choose discipline over comfort, you're becoming the kind of person who can overcome any bad habit. The eighth principle is called willpower, a Japanese philosophy of taking pride in doing even the smallest things exceptionally well. Most people only celebrate big achievements. They think they'll be proud of themselves once they lose the weight, earn more money, quit their bad habit, or finally reach their goal. But willpower teaches that excellence begins long before the finish line. It begins with how seriously you treat the smallest actions. Imagine two people trying to build the same habit. The first person only cares about the final result. The second person cares about every small step along the way. They take pride in waking up on time. They take pride in making their bed. They take pride in drinking enough water. They take pride in keeping the promises they make to themselves. At first, these actions seem ordinary. but together they create an extraordinary person. Your habits are built one decision at a time. Every time you choose the better option, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. No one sees those small victories. No one applauds when you choose water instead of soda. No one gives you a trophy for putting your phone away and reading 10 pages of a book. But those quiet decisions are shaping your future. The Japanese believe that true mastery isn't about doing impressive things once. It's about doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. That's why you should never underestimate a small win. Every healthy meal matters. Every workout matters. Every page you read matters. Every time you resist temptation matters. They may not change your life today, but they are slowly changing the person you are becoming. Stop waiting until you've reached your goal to feel proud. Be proud that you showed up today. Be proud that you tried again after failing yesterday. Be proud that you kept one small promise to yourself. Because confidence isn't built by thinking differently. It's built by acting differently. One good decision may seem insignificant. 100 good decisions become a habit. 1,000 good decisions become your character. The people who transform their lives aren't always more talented. They simply refuse to ignore the importance of small actions. Treat every small habit as if it matters. Because one day, you'll realize those small habits were building the life you always wanted. The 9th principle is called Aube Tori, a beautiful Japanese concept that teaches one simple truth. Don't compare your journey to someone else's. This may seem unrelated to breaking bad habits, but comparison is one of the biggest reasons people give up. Think about how often you've looked at someone else's success and thought, "They're so much further ahead than I am. They changed their life in a few months. Why am I still struggling?" The moment you start comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, you lose sight of your own progress. Aobetori comes from 4 trees that bloom in spring: the cherry blossom, the plum, the peach, and the apricot. Each tree blooms at a different time. None of them rush. None of them compete. None of them tries to become another tree. Yet each one is beautiful in its own season. People are no different. Some break a bad habit in 30 days. Others take 6 months. Some need a year. That doesn't mean they're failing. It means they're growing at their own pace. The danger of comparison is that it steals your motivation. You stop measuring yourself against who you were yesterday and start measuring yourself against people whose lives are completely different from yours. Different experiences, different challenges, different opportunities, different starting points. How could that ever be a fair comparison? Instead of asking, "Why am I not where they are?" ask, "Am I better than I was last month?" That's the only comparison that truly matters. Real progress isn't always obvious. Sometimes the changes are so small you barely notice them. Maybe you recover from a setback faster. Maybe you spend less time on your phone. Maybe you choose a healthy meal more often than before. Those victories count. Don't ignore them just because they aren't dramatic. Success is rarely one giant leap. It's thousands of tiny improvements that most people never see. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Every step forward is proof that you're changing. Remember, the cherry blossom never envies the plum tree. It simply blooms when its time comes. Your time will come too. Stay patient. Stay consistent. Keep moving forward. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. The 10th and final principle is simple, but it brings everything you've learned together. The Japanese understand that lasting change doesn't happen because of one big decision. It happens because of one good decision repeated every single day. Imagine where you'll be 1 year from now if you improve by just 1% each day. Imagine replacing 1 hour of scrolling with 1 hour of learning. Imagine choosing a healthy meal instead of junk food most days of the week. Imagine keeping the promises you make to yourself, even when no one is watching. Those small choices may not seem important today, but over time they completely transform your life. Most people are waiting for the perfect moment to change. They're waiting for Monday. They're waiting for the new year. They're waiting until they feel more motivated. But that perfect moment never arrives. The Japanese philosophy you've learned today teaches something different. Start where you are. Use what you have. Take one small step today. Then take another tomorrow. Don't worry about changing your entire life in a week. Focus on winning today. If you win today often enough, you'll eventually win the month. Win enough months and you'll change the year. Change enough years and you'll change your life. Breaking a bad habit isn't about becoming a new person overnight. It's about becoming a slightly better version of yourself every single day. Some days will be easy. Others will test your patience. There will be moments when you want to give up. There will be times when you slip back into old patterns. When that happens, don't quit. Remember Kaizen, keep improving. Remember Hansei, learn from your mistakes. Remember Shoshin, begin again with an open mind. Remember Ikigai, stay connected to your purpose. Remember pause before you react. Remember Kanso, build an environment that supports you. Remember Gaman, endure temporary discomfort. Remember Kodawari, take pride in the smallest actions. Remember Aobetori, stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. These aren't just Japanese ideas. They're principles for living a better life. The person you become is shaped by the choices you make when no one is watching. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, patience over impulse, and purpose over distraction, you're building a future that your past self could only dream about. So here's your challenge. For the next 30 days, choose one bad habit. Don't try to change everything. Apply these principles consistently. Keep a simple journal. Reflect on your progress. Learn from your setbacks. And most importantly, never let one bad day become an excuse to quit. 30 days from now, you may not be perfect, but you'll be stronger. You'll be wiser. And you'll be living proof that lasting change is possible. If you enjoyed this video and found these Japanese principles valuable, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos on self-improvement, philosophy, and timeless wisdom. Now tell me in the comments, which bad habit are you leaving behind starting today? Your journey begins with the next decision you make. Before you leave, remember this. The biggest changes in life rarely happen overnight. They happen quietly, through the small choices you make every single day. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, patience over impulse, and purpose over distraction, you're becoming someone your future self will thank you for. You don't need to be perfect, you only need to be consistent. Starting today, choose one bad habit. Apply these Japanese principles for the next 30 days and watch how small actions create extraordinary results. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more videos on timeless wisdom, self-improvement, and practical philosophies that can transform your life. And before you go, leave a comment below and answer this question. What's the one bad habit you're committed to leaving behind today? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.